This is an introduction to basic year 12 trigonometry, and we're starting off with a little bit of year 11 trigonometry. Now, everything we did in year 11 trigonometry was to do with right angle triangles, where we had some angle in there, and some of you said that you prefer me to use x as a variable, so we'll use x. Now, this side here was always the hypotenuse, the longest side. The one adjacent to the angle was the adjacent, the one opposite the angle was the opposite. And then we found that no matter what ratio or similar triangles we had, the ratios of the sides of O divided by A, of A divided by H, and of O divided by H were always the same, and they had special names. So we had tan, short for tangent, and we had cos, short for cosine, and we had sine, not sin, short for sine of x, where sine has usually got an e on the end. There are also other ratios as well, where we could actually reverse each of these ratios, a over o, h over a, and h over o. And this one is called cot x, this one is called sec, short for secant x, and this one is called cosec x. Kind of strange why the sine goes to cosec. You'd think that it would be the other way around. That's how I remember it. It's always the opposite to what I expect. So these are more ratios that we can actually start using when we get further on into trigonometry. Right, there's also a few basic relationships that you really should note. And that is the fact that we know that tan of whatever angle is O over A. But we've also got O's and A's in the sine and cosine, so we can actually relate tan to sine and cosine. Now sine is O over H, and cosine is A over H, and you should know that we should just be able to cancel both of those H's, or if you want to go back to some basic fractions, if you're dividing by a fraction, you turn it upside down and multiply, which means your H's cancel. So in other words, this bit here was just sine, and that bit there was just cos, and it gets us tan. So in other words, that tan of x equals sine of x divided by cos of x. That becomes very important, especially later on, and definitely in year 13 mathematics. That's one of the basic trigonometric relationships that you really should know. Another basic trigonometric relationship that you really should know is if you have that's h, and that's x, and that's o, and that's a, we know that a, since we know that a over h equals cos of x, we know that a is the same as h cos x, and we also know since o over h equals sine of x, we know that o equals h sine x. Right, let's take a special triangle. Let's take a triangle where the hypotenuse itself is just 1. That would mean that this side here is the adjacent, is h cos x, but h is just 1, so this is just cos x. And this side here is h sine x, but since h is 1, this is just sine x. And then we've got this wonderful thing, Pythagoras, with a right angle triangle, that we know that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So this is just telling us that sine squared x plus cos squared x equals 1. And that's one of the major identities that you get in trigonometry, and that is one of the major things that we're going to be doing in year 13 mathematics. Okay, from that, there's also another things that you should remember, and I'll get you to go over them, and that is when you've got a 30-60 triangle. Okay, if you've got a 30-60 triangle, you should know the ratios of all those sides, but we'll go over that at a later date.